Once again, he is frowning into the camera every time we
I
start
swear,
this
this is a
podcast.
smile.
It's like, "Arr." One day I'm not going to edit it out, and then you're going to see. All right, for everyone else, welcome to the Spin Nation podcast. We are the podcast that slices through the noise to reveal the forces shaping Canadian perspectives. I'm your host, Laurel, and as always, I'm here with my co-host, Emmanuel. Besides the frowns, Emmanuel, how are you doing today?
Morning, Laurel. Good to be with you today.
Okay, enough attempt at banter. Let's talk about what we're here to talk about today. Today, we're going to break down the accounts and the numbers behind TikTok. This is one of the more controversial social platforms.
But this morning, not quite as controversial as our good friend X Twitter.
Yes, they are really giving TikTok a run for its money when it comes to controversy. So before we get into our top 5 TikTok accounts, I mean, Grok had a ultimate racist meltdown today.
Grok called itself Mecha Hitler, so that's usually not a good sign. I'm not sure where they're gonna take this, but they've reverted back to a previous version of Twitter as we speak today.
A lot of it was loose, but our research that we've done here for Spin Nation, but also for clients, is when you look at one of the most influential accounts on X. So I don't know if you've noticed this, but didn't seem to matter what topic or industry we were looking at. Grok is often one of the highest highest account in terms of a quantity of posts talking about whatever it is we're researching. So the fact that Grok can be manipulated like this, I mean, that is a little bit frightening. I mean, this time it was obvious, but maybe next time not so obvious.
That's a huge problem. So we could see what happened, and this is the second time that something obvious has happened in the last month or so. But it does bring out questions for what happens when the influence is a lot more subtle and it tries to squeeze in some messaging and change people's attitudes, or even change the sources that it considers being definitive when it builds out these answers to the questions.
Yeah, so people who aren't familiar, a lot of X users will ask Grok questions. So if someone makes a post or there's a media article, it has become very common for users to say, "Hey Grok, validate this post," or "Hey Grok, is what this thing is saying true? Hey Grok, do you have any background information?" So it is becoming a very common source of truth, not just for Canadians. I mean, it's sure it happened, but around the world. And if it can be so easily pushed in one direction or another, then that as you're saying, could be very problematic if the it's just a nudge and nobody notices. It starts
Yeah.
nudging people in a particular direction.
And the amplification goes twofold. First, you can ask a question and just read the answer, but a lot of people take that answer, screenshot it, and then use that to create a new post. So Grok is reaching out not just to the user's eyes, but also to everybody this user reposts to. So it's a significant impact, and following this controversy today it clearly shows that it has a huge amplitude.
Big reputation risk and big, I would say, ding on the trust that people are going to have in Grok. Maybe, let's see.
Certainly, if I was an advertiser, I'd be questioning my budget.
Okay, so let's talk about the other social media platform that has its fair share of controversy around its algorithm. Today, we're looking into TikTok. So, our business question for today are: who are the top 5 news and politics accounts on Canada TikTok? Now, this is sort of our last in the series. We've looked at YouTube, we've looked at podcasts, we've looked at X. Now we're looking at TikTok, or maybe we'll still do Instagram. But this was a little tougher nut to crack.
It's a lot more difficult on TikTok to get a really broad view of who's influential. On YouTube, there are listings. There's ways to get views, and there's a lot of top lists across the world. But on TikTok, you're stuck with what the algorithm feeds you.
So we decided to also take a different approach here as well. I would say the easiest comparable one we've done in the past was YouTube, considering they're both video platforms. But this time we more drilled down into the independent voices. Not to say that traditional media isn't actually quite prominent.
That's right. We're going to show you the list of the top 5 independents. We're going to start with a count by followers. But before we do that, yes, that's right. Quite to my surprise, but we're finding this true across all of the platforms that we're looking at, whether it's podcast or YouTube or even some on Twitter. We're actually finding that incumbent media tend to top the charts, and by significant numbers. So
CBC, CTV, all of the usual suspects.
Toronto Star, Globe and Mail, etc. So a lot of those incumbents, tend to dominate the top lists.
Okay, so I just said it was a bit harder to wrap our arms around the entirety of the Canada TikTok space, but we are looking at almost 100 accounts that we're tracking now. And we're looking at accounts that are bigger, that have at least 10,000 followers.
That's right.
Okay, so what can you tell us just at a high level of those total accounts? This includes independent and traditional media. So what percentage are independent? What were some key takeaways for you?
So out of those 100 accounts, we got about 54% that are independents. A lot of the other ones are the incumbent media or other organizations, and multiple media have several accounts. Like the CBC, for example, has a huge number of different accounts by region, sometimes by show, etc. So one top level statistic that is interesting. So out of those 54% of independent accounts, they only account for 15% of the followers and about 20% of the likes, at least for last week that we've collected this data for.
Right. So actually, that's a good thing. We're only looking at a week's worth of data. So this is a bit of a snapshot in time. But I think what you're trying to say is that proportionately, there's still a lot more TikTokers and accounts and users that are gravitating to the traditional media, traditional broadcast accounts.
TikTokers, yes, use incumbent media to a significant level. Like 80% of the follower increase are incumbent media.
All right. So again, we keep having to come back to this, but it seems that traditional media is not as dead as people think.
Still alive and well, and I would say growing with vigor.
All right.
All right. So let me do one thing. I want to read out this list of the top 5 independent TikTokers, but you're the one in this marriage. You're the one that is the primary consumer of TikTok news.
Love it.
So I'd love to get your feedback. Who are these accounts, and what do you see them frequently on your timeline?
Okay.
So let me read out the list so top 5 indie TikTokers for Canadian news. In first place, we've got Mark Carney Thirst. Second place, Real News Media. Third place, Official Mario Zelaya. Fourth place, Yann Sénéchal. And fifth place, Brandon Gonez Show. So who have you heard about before? Who shows up in your feed of this list, Laurel?
So the top 3 I see on the regular. Now the Mark Carney Thirst, that is a Mark Carney Thirst trap. So it's a bit of a joke account, I think, but it's just videos of Mark Carney winking at the camera and trying to look sexy. So it's looking thirsty. So that is the entire point of that account. I think people are just generally amused by it. I'm amused by it. Now, Real News Media. So this account, I would call it a conservative voice amplification account. They will feature clips from Jasmine Lane, and she was on our list of top podcasters. They will feature Moose on the Loose.
Moose on the Loose.
He was one of our top YouTubers. They will feature news clips. So there isn't, I would say, much additional commentary, but it's just reinforcing the key messages coming out of the conservative and more right-wing space. Mario Zelaya, he's quite prominent across a number of different channels. He focuses on what is the government doing, current events. He gives his point of view. He has more of an editorial perspective, again, from a conservative, more right-wing lens, I would say. I actually not as familiar with number 4 and number 5.
So I can tell you a little bit about Yann Seneschal. So this is a group of 2 or 3 francophone hosts, and they're also visible on YouTube and a number of other channels. They tend to be a little bit on the right wing or maybe libertarian side. Their website is called La Pilule Rouge, the red pill. So I can let you imagine sort of where their views start off. Finally, Brandon Gonez. This is a little more neutral / entertainment. So there's a little bit of news, but often it's more about artists and happenings in the city of Toronto.
Okay, so these have had the most followers in the last week. And again, this is our first time measuring this. We believe we've gotten a pretty good chunk of the largest accounts talking about news and politics. But if anyone's listening and they see names they want to make sure that we're covering, by all means, please send those our way. You can reach us through our website at 996advisors.com or through TikTok or YouTube. So this was one view. This is how many new followers they've had, but you also took a second view.
Right. So we're looking at who are the top 5 accounts based on the number of likes this week versus previous week. So in this list, we've got Cole Not Cole, Steve Boots, Mark Carney Thirst, Yann Seneschal, and 04 _ Canada. So are those new names on this list also names that you frequently see on your feed, Laura?
Sure. So Cole Not Cole, Steve Boots, both of those coming more from the left. Mark Carney Thirst we already talked about. Yann Seneschal you spoke about. I don't know 04 Canada. That one doesn't ring a bell with me. I can tell you that Cole Not Cole, he gives like a daily update. So he will take what's happened in the news, condense it down. He doesn't give, I would say, very strong, hard left-leaning editorial. He will add comments that make it clear that he is looking at it more from a central or left point of view. But it seems like his account is more around, let me share the latest news that's out there. Whereas Steve Boots, I believe he has a little more commentary approach.
Yeah, Steve Boots is across multiple platforms. I believe on YouTube, he comes up as definitely a top player. I think he's on Twitch as well. So definitely an individual with a lot of energy being present on all of these platforms. And he posts a high number of videos, I think, that are extracted from his streaming.
Yeah, that's what he does on TikTok too. Like there'll be multiple posts a day, but you can tell it's all from the same stream that he's already shared.
Yes,
but
I
he's
count
very
his
popular.
videos by the color of his toque, which changes on a daily basis.
All right, so these are our top 5s by likes and by follower growth. Again, work in progress, but I'm glad we got this first cut at it.
Mm-hmm. And one insight that I bring here, because it's the reverse of what we're seeing on YouTube. So for TikTok this week, more follower gains towards the right leaning accounts and more likes for the left leaning account. It's a little bit reversed on YouTube. Last week, we saw the big players like Moose on the Loose, Elevate, get more views, but left leaning accounts like Guard the Leaf are increasing at a faster pace.
All right, well, that's our first so what. So thank you for kicking us off there. For me, the key so what again is this idea that TikTok is really starting to become a focal point for traditional media. So we already talked about the follower growth and the like growth. We touched on that. But there's another element that is a very key part to how TikTok videos, for those who don't go on TikTok a lot, are created is that other creators' videos are stitched. So what we see is a lot of the political commentators are going to stitch something from a CTV or a Global News, or they will take a shot from the Globe and Mail, and they will use that within their, and then add their commentary or their take on it. So not only are people going direct to the traditional media accounts, but even these indie influencers are still leveraging traditional media content within their own content through stitches and other ways to integrate it into their own TikToks. That's one thing. The other thing with stitching is that what I see is that when you have communities on TikTok, they can become their own echo chambers because the algorithm, number one, really aggressively feeds you content that you are already interested in. So there's that. And number two, if a content creator sends something and someone else thinks it's a bit off, they will stitch that. They will cut that little bit, stitch it, and then say, well, this creator has said A, B, and C, and I think that's terrible. It creates these feuds, which I have seen not just on, right now there's one going on left-leaning political candidate TikTok. There's a feud between some of the creators, to which we are following on our list.
Can you name names? Who's that?
Well, yeah, it's not like Rachel Gilmore is one of them, and then Canadian Polly
101.
Not 101, Polly B. There, I'm forgetting that Polly B. I think something like that. They are sort of fighting about something that he said that she stitched. But I've seen this happen in other like beauty communities. I've seen this happen in all kinds of different TikTok communities where everybody piles on to whatever that was stitched. And this is quite unique to TikTok. And so it's just something to keep in mind how things kind of go around in a whirlwind within circles within its own echo chamber on TikTok, which is, special to this particular channel.
Yeah, sometimes we see a little bit of that on YouTube, but I would say it's pretty rare. The fights might happen in the comments, but it sounds like here it happens like in the actual stitches.
Yes, exactly. Then they'll play and they'll point and they'll say, do you see what then they'll stop and they'll comment and comment and comment. And then people will chime in and pile on and pile on and pile on. There's drama. There's a lot more drama on TikTok.
So it takes good fortitude to be on a TikToker, I'm assuming.
I think so. Now we have started on TikTok. We've been on for about a month, I would say. It's a tricky, more tricky platform because of the algorithm. People who don't know, TikTok is trying to become a search engine. So this also impacts the way that it feeds content on whether it recognizes what someone's content is and then how it shares that across others For You page. So it's when we're still ourselves figuring out. It is much harder to get followers. I don't know if it's always been that way on TikTok, but right now you might get a video that blows up, but actually getting people to follow your page is a bit more challenging. So the accounts that we're talking about here, a lot of them have a lot of like 200,000, 400,000. They're big follower bases. So a lot of influence, absolutely a lot of influence.
Clearly, and poorly understood, I would say, outside of very specific channels. So important to understand, especially as TikTok and some of these other emerging channels are the primary source for the younger cohorts. So it's going to be very important for everyone, policymakers, governments, and to some degree, corporations and advertisers to really understand the import of this level of influence, which is growing.
And it's true that let's say the Gen Zs and younger, they're using TikTok as a search engine, but the creators, especially in the news and political space, I would say they're millennials and Gen Xers and boomers. They're not younger, they're older. Older, there are like they're the older generations. They're creating. There's a lot of creation coming at that age group. And I think it's a much more personal way of interacting and sharing point of view and perspective, because it's often you just sit and send up your camera and just talk to it while people will be making their cup of tea or doing their makeup and talk about what Mark Carney did on trade that day. So it feels like you're bringing people into your home. So it does, I think, change the dynamic between the creator and the audience because it is so intimate.
Focusing on that personal connection, that authenticity,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Lisa, we've done TikTok, YouTube, we have done X, we've done podcasts. We're going to look across all these channels at some point, see what we can see if there's any trends or insights worth sharing. Of course, we're going to keep this updated as we go forward. You can see that we're going to put something up on our website at 996advisors.com. But again, thank you everyone for joining us, whether via a podcast app or you're watching us on YouTube. Please share. It's hard to get follows. Please follow our channels. It really helps us build our network and our community. And if you've got names on TikTok you want to make sure that is on our list, by all means, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. As always, thank you, and we will see you next time.
Until next time.